If you've walked the Camino de Santiago, you already know what I mean by the Camino feeling. You probably also know how jarring it is when the trail ends and life speeds back up. You finish walking, and then comes a different challenge, figuring out how to live without the arrows, the routine, and the built-in meaning of each day. Hey, I'm Tracy, and I walked the Camino in September 2025, and in this video, I'm going to share 10 practical ways to carry the Camino feeling into everyday life without needing to walk every day. Number 1, give each day one main job. On the Camino, every day has one focus. You wake up, you walk, and that's the job. Sure, other things happen. You eat, you rest, you talk to people, but mentally, the day is about that one thing, walking to the next stage. That single focus is a big part of why the Camino feels so good. And at the end of the day, there's a clear sense of completion. In our regular life, our problem usually isn't lack of effort. It's that our energy is spread too thin across too many things, so nothing ever feels finished. So the way I recreate the Camino feeling is by giving each day one clear focus and actually executing on it. That might be getting a script draft done, or finishing a video, or wrapping up some admin tasks I've been putting off, like booking a flight or accommodation somewhere. Once I've hit that goal, the day feels complete. I'm not chasing productivity. I'm recreating that Camino feeling of I did what I came here to do. This works just as well in a normal work week. You just pick one thing to actually finish that day. That might be moving one project forward at work, or closing one open loop you've been carrying, like sending that email you've been avoiding. The key isn't doing everything, just finishing the thing you chose. When you do that, the day ends the way it did on the Camino, with that quiet satisfaction of knowing I did what I set out to do today. I can rest now. Number 2, start the day without consuming content. On the Camino, mornings belong to you. There's no time for scrolling, no checking headlines, no dealing with outside noise. Well, except for the 5 a.m. people zipping up their bags and shuffling out of the room. But mentally, the day starts empty. And that's part of the reason why the Camino feels so intentional. You start the day with 100% of your attention. I recreate that now by keeping my mornings content free. Currently staying with a host family in Guatemala, and I don't have Wi-Fi in my room. At first, I was honestly annoyed about it, but it's become one of the biggest reasons my mornings feel so peaceful here. I don't immediately reach for my phone right away. I don't start the day reacting to the world. And you don't need to remove Wi-Fi to do this. For you, it might look like not checking your phone for the first 30 minutes, or even keeping your phone in a different room when you wake up. It's a small shift, but it brings back something very familiar. That quiet, clear-headed start to the day, that is very Camino. Number 3, create simple, repeating rituals. On the trail, most days follow the same pattern. Walk, laundry, beer and conversation, dinner, sleep, and repeat. The structure never really changed, but the details did. Different towns, different cafes, different people at the table. That rhythm is a big part of why the Camino works. You're not constantly reinventing the day. It was predictable enough to feel safe, with just enough variation to keep it interesting. I recreate that now by keeping the shape of my days the same, even though the details change. Most days look pretty familiar. I wake up and work out. I go to Spanish class, eat meals with my host family, work on content at a cafe, study, and meditate. Even the week has its own pattern. Salsa classes one day, group activities another, the cat cafe on Sundays. But within that rhythm, there's variety. A different meal, or different people in my salsa class, or different places we go on the group outings each week. The routine stays steady, yet the experience stays fresh. And this is something you can do in everyday life too. For you, it might look like keeping the same workout days, but trying a different class or a time, or having one regular night out or social plan, but letting where you go or who joins change each week. You keep the structure of your days the same, while the details shift just enough to keep it interesting. That balance, familiarity with room for surprise, is a big part of what made the Camino feel the way it did. Number 4, carry everything you need in one bag. On the Camino, you quickly learn what it feels like to carry your life with you. Everything you need is on your back, and you move through the day knowing you're prepared. I keep that same feeling now by carrying one small backpack everywhere I go. Inside it is everything I might need for the day: water, snacks, study materials, AirPods, and a few just-in-case items. Having it all in one place gives me a sense of ease, and when I leave the house, I'm not second-guessing myself. I know I have what I need and I can focus on where I'm going. For you, it might look like using one bag you take everywhere instead of switching constantly, or packing it intentionally at the start of the day or resetting it at the end of the day so it's ready to go. It's a small practice, but it recreates a very Camino feeling. Carrying what you need and trusting that it's enough. Number 5, stay in the body. The Camino keeps you in your body whether you want to be or not. You're constantly aware of sensations, your feet, your breath, the weight of your pack, the weather on your skin. There is no escaping what's happening in your body, and that's part of the reason why the Camino feels so grounded. I keep that connection now by practicing simple body awareness throughout the day. That looks like paying attention to my breathing while I'm out walking or waiting in line, or noticing tension in my shoulders or jaw or hands as the day goes on, feeling my feet on the ground when I'm standing or moving, or working in short moments of meditation. And these are things anyone can practice. In fact, I'll link a short, simple meditation above if you want to try one for yourself. The communal feeling isn't something you think your way into. It comes from being more aware of what's happening in your body, the same way you were step after step on the trail. And once you start noticing what's happening in your body, the next step is actually listening to it. Number 6, let physical needs set the schedule. On the Camino, your body quietly set the pace. You stop when you're tired, you eat when you're hungry, you rest when you need to. The clock matters less than how you feel. I try to live that way now too. Some nights I'm asleep by 8:30, and some days I take a 3-hour nap, or some days I don't nap at all. I've also stopped eating breakfast just to be polite. My host family eats early, and I realized I was forcing food when I wasn't hungry. I said no gracias to breakfast, and that was that. That kind of adjustment might sound small, but it changes how the day feels, and that is something you can apply in your own life too. Try going to bed earlier than usual when your body is done for the day, or eating based on how you feel, not just the time on the clock. It's a shift from living by the schedule to letting your body have a say. Body over clock. That is pure Camino logic. Number 7, sit in cafes without a laptop. On the Camino, cafes aren't a workspace, they're a pause. You stop, you sit, you eat, you talk, and when you're done, you move on. There's no pressure to be productive while you're there. That kind of rest without guilt, is a big part of the Camino feeling. This one is really hard for me. My laptop usually goes everywhere with me, but every Sunday when I go to a cat cafe here, I leave it behind and I just sit and watch and pet cats, not producing anything. And that pause feels a lot like the Camino cafes, a break that doesn't need to be justified. And this is something you can practice anywhere. It's a small boundary, but it changes how rest feels. You're not stealing time from your day, you're doing what you did on the Camino, resting on purpose. Number 8, talk to strangers without an agenda. On the Camino, you talk to everyone, and it's not because you're networking, and it's not because you're naturally outgoing. In fact, many of the people I met would classify themselves as introverts. But you talk because there's no reason not to. You talk to the person walking next to you. You talk to whoever sits down at your table. There's no strategy to it and no outcome that you're aiming for. It's just human to human conversation. Now, this is easier while traveling, but it applies anywhere. I try to keep that part of the Camino alive by talking to people without needing anything from the interaction. This might be a short conversation with someone next to me in a cafe, or just a few words with someone in line. This is something you can practice anywhere too, not just while traveling. On the Camino, connection isn't something you schedule or optimize. It just happens when you're open. And bringing that openness into regular life brings back a very familiar feeling, the sense that you're part of something, even if just for a moment. And the Camino reminds you how human that actually is. Number 9, let the day reveal itself. On the Camino, you don't control the whole day. You might know where you're starting and where you hope to end up, but everything in between is open. Who you walk with, where you stop, what the day turns into. And that openness is part of what makes the Camino feel so interesting. I try to keep that now by holding my days more lightly. I still have plans and I still have goals, but I leave room for things to shift. That might mean saying yes to something I didn't plan, like going to a salsa class I never would have gone to in my old life, and realizing that I actually like it. For you, it might look like leaving white space on your calendar instead of filling in every gap, or saying yes to something small and unplanned, or just letting the day change shape without treating it like a failure. On the Camino, some of the best moments aren't scheduled. They happen because you're available. Letting the day reveal itself is less about giving up control and more about trusting that something good can happen without forcing it. And that leads into the last way to keep the Camino feeling alive. Number 10, trust the next step. This one is still a practice for me. I like clarity. I like having a detailed plan. I like seeing how everything's supposed to work out. But on the Camino, you don't get that. And you keep walking anyway. If you don't like where you end up, like a loud albergue, you move on the next day. And life really isn't that different. You don't need all the answers before you start. You just need to take the next step, make the next choice, have the next conversation, or just do the next small thing. And then you see what happens. If it works, you keep going. And if it doesn't, you adjust. The Camino doesn't ask you to have it all figured out. It asks you to keep moving and to trust yourself that you can handle what comes next. That's the Camino feeling that actually lasts. And when you put all of this together, that's how the Camino feeling stays alive. Not by recreating the trail, but by keeping the simplicity and the presence and the rhythm and the trust you learned out there. Those things don't belong to the Camino. They belong to you now. If you've already walked and you're noticing how different life feels afterward, I have another Camino video linked here where I talk more about that transition. Thanks for watching, and buen Camino.